So I just finished the HBO documentary Yacht Rock. So I made a video before where I previewed it and I kind of give my take of what I thought it was going to be. And it was everything I thought it would be and more. And it's funny because I was right about the Michael McDonald stuff. Michael McDonald's hands is all over this thing because he was an integral part of this. I was right about Kenny Loggins, right? And their interaction, him and Michael McDonald. And like Questlove said, you wish they wrote more music together. I wish there was almost like a Loggins McDonald album that was out during that time period, because I think that would have been tremendous. Shout out to Questlove and shout out to Thundercat, who was also in this documentary. So I was right about Kenny Loggins. I was right about Michael McDonald. I was right about about Motown being an influence on these artists. I mean, not just Motown, just black artists in general during not even just the 60s, but even the early 70s. Like, it's just, this is what I miss. I miss seeing, you see hip hop's influence on, we see Jelly Roll and, you see the hip hop influence on him, but I miss like the R&B influence on artists today. It's just not as prevalent as it was back in the 60s and 70s. So I was right about that. What I had wrong was, I knew somehow Fleetwood Mac would be part of this, but I didn't know what integral part that Stevie Nicks played in Yacht Rock. I won't reveal it. I'll let you guys watch it. But she's an integral part in this thing. Not a big part, but a small, significant part in it. What else I was wrong about? Oh, yeah, Toto. I was completely wrong about Toto. I knew Toto, because I knew Toto was around in the mid-70s. I knew they had hits. And I know their big album was, they had Rosanna in Africa. And I talked about Rosanna in the last video. But I had no idea that Toto was even more impactful than Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald is actually third on the list now, where I had him number one going into it. He's actually number 3. So his fingerprints is all over this. But then there's Toto. Toto as a band. Toto as writers. I knew about their connection to Michael Jackson and Thriller and Quincy Jones. I knew that. But I had no clue how intricate they were on different sessions that they played on different albums they produced, on different songs that they written on. Like, I had no idea. Toto's one of those acts where they're not really, I don't think they were really trying to get a lot of limelight for themselves. I think they just loved writing. I think they loved performing. I think they loved being in the studio. I think they loved crafting just songs, not just trying to make hits, but just crafting songs. And I miss hearing that today, where people, it's rare today you hear someone says, I really love music. I really love the art of music. Like, I love writing music. You hear people say, oh, I love my fans. I love my brand, all this stuff. But it's almost rare today when you hear someone say, I really love creating music, right? Like, I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, but I know she really does like making music. Is she Toto? No. Those guys are amazing. So I underrated Toto's talent. So that's on me. So, but they're number 2. The top act that I got wrong, that I totally underrated, is Steely Dan. I knew Michael McDonald came off of Steely Dan, because in my head, okay, Michael McDonald, Steely Dan, and then he left and went to the Doobie Brothers, and all this whole thing started. Steely Dan is the foundation for all this stuff. They're the foundation for Michael McDonald. They're the foundation for Toto. If Toto and Michael McDonald weren't part of Steely Dan in some form, we wouldn't have this documentary. And Steely Dan's album Asia is just amazing. I love Peg. Peg is just, it doesn't matter what year it is. Peg is always going to be a great song. A song that I found late, I probably heard it before, but I got to it late, was Dirty Work. And I got to it watching the beginning of American Hustle. The beginning of American Hustle is still one of my favorite opening scenes of probably of the best decade or so, because it's in slow motion. I think, like Chappelle said, everything looks good in slow motion. It's in slow motion. And you have Bradley Cooper, and his hair's in a perm, like he just got the pink rollers out of his hair. You got Christian Bale, he got a comb over, and in the middle is the lovely Amy Adams, peak Amy Adams in the middle. And they're both walking slow motion into this hotel room. and Dirty Work is playing. I was like, this song is amazing. And I shazammed it. I was like, who made it? Steely Dan. Steely Dan. It's hard to quantify Steely Dan's sound. At the base of it, they are like a jazz act with layers of pop and rock and R&B, but the basis is jazz. But Peg and Dirty Work are two different songs from the same act. And they got a bunch of other songs too, but they're so, I think because Steely Dan didn't try to, they didn't try to be like the biggest pop stars in the world. They just love to make music and they love being in the studio, and it worked. And they were based, it's basically the Los Angeles sound, to be honest. It's called Yacht Rock and Soft Rock, but really it's the Los Angeles, because all this stuff happened in Los Angeles. And you wouldn't think this would have happened in Los Angeles. You figure what missed this, especially with the Steely Dan jazz element, and Toto has that too. You would think, well, they must have been like in New York or someplace, or San Francisco. Like, no, they were in LA. And that's the fascinating thing about LA music. Like, LA has so many different types of styles because, okay, so you had that Steely Dan and then that soft rock, yacht rock period, right? That's like from, I don't know, 76 to like 82. And then after that, also come out of LA, you get Motley Crue. You get this whole hair band era also come out of LA. That's how crazy how LA is. That you can go from Michael Badano, Toto, and Steely Dan to Motley Crue and LA Guns. I think LA Guns is out of there. All playing the Viper Room and things like that. And then a couple years later, we get NWA coming out of Compton, which basically is part of Los Angeles. Like, all these genres all came out within a 10-year period. You got yacht rock, you got hair bands, and you got gangster rap, all in LA in a 10-year period. That's amazing. That's a documentary amongst itself. So yeah, shout out to Steely Dan and shout out to Bill Simmons. Because while I was watching, when the documentary first started, it's like it started, and then the director was talking, and then it went into the documentary. It's like, man, why does this remind me of 30 for 30? And at the end of it, it said executive produced by Bill Simmons, who was formerly of ESPN. He now runs The Ringer. And Bill Simmons I think it was his idea to start 30 for 30, one of the greatest things ESPN has ever done. I'm sad that they don't do 30 for 30 anymore, because it's just it was a great piece of documentarians at ESPN. But he took that format and used it for Rockbox. So, for Music Box. So Music Box is his baby on the Ringer Films. So shout out to Bill Simmons. But if you saw the Yacht Rock documentary, what did you get from it? Like, what thing surprised you the most? Again, for me, it was probably Steely Dan's influence, Toto's influence, and probably the Stevie Nicks part, because I didn't see that part coming. I was like, oh, I thought I knew quite a few things about Stevie. I didn't know that. And what are your favorite yacht rock songs? And again, I hate the term, because here's the thing. I think the guys who did the whole yacht rock thing, it was a YouTube series they did like 2005, and it was a kind of a goof on the genre, but then it was kind of serious. Like, they actually loved the music. It's also almost like they took all the players of that era and kind of made it into a satire, which I totally understand. I just don't like the whole thing about the sailor hats and all that stuff. Like I was watching, there's nothing yachty like about these guys. And then you have Christopher Cross, he has sailing, but that's about it. So I'm not really cool with the name, but I understand it, because now you can wrap it around, okay, this is the genre of who these people are. And I liked how they kind of broke down who kind of fit in yacht rock and who was kind of yacht rock. Like Hall & Oates and Hall & Oates and like the Eagles and like Fleetwood Mac, they're kind of they have yacht rock tendencies, but they're not full on yacht rock. Toto, Steely Dan, Michael McDonald. And also I also enjoyed the hip hop part at the end. They I didn't see that coming. They talk about De La and Warren G with Regulate. That's and how that kind of rebirthed everything for a lot of people. So if you haven't seen this documentary, it's on HBO Max. Make sure, if you're a music historian, please check it out. If you just love music in general, please check it out. Oh my God. I love Yacht Rock. My bad Michael McDonald impersonation. Which they ended with the song I Gotta Try. Great tune. Check it out. Michael McDonald. I gotta try.